Welcome everyone to the ABC of Paranormal Strangeness with your hosts Renata Daniel from Newcastle Ghost Tours, still barely surviving and alive, and Anne Rekovich from Ozperitech, which is going hell for leather.
Yay, because equipment has arrived! Woohoo!
And welcome everyone to the letter T.
Voila!
Hello.
Yes, tonight we are covering the letter T in the ABC of Paranormal Strangeness. And we are going to be looking at table tipping, hence the table, and
Telekinesis.
telekinesis.
Hence all of your brains.
Spoon bending. Do you have your spoons ready?
Quick, go to the kitchen, grab a spoon.
It's supposed to be was supposed to be pure silver, wasn't it, or something like that? But who can afford that? So we've got my nice little alloy ready to go.
Unprepared. We haven't had time to kind
They're
of.
not pre-bent.
No.
Not sure what that one is. We'll just let everyone jump on. Oh, Danielle, hi. And Justin, hi Justin. And hi Courtney. So just a reminder everyone, this is not tarot reading, although Renata does have some very
Interesting cards.
no picture. Oh yes, that's right, because we were talking over the top of it. Yes, look at this. The Occult Tarot. Now I find it interesting.
I'm going to scare.
Yes, the red cardie. Thank you for noticing. I do have the red cardie on.
I will scare the Beelzebub out of all of you. Because this particular set of tarot has all the demons on it. Look at that.
She's brave. She can hold them in her hands.
Oh no, my hands aren't burning yet.
And welcome everyone. You're all coming on so quickly. Oh, hi from Adelaide. We are based in Newcastle, New South Wales. So tonight is our edumacation night, as we like to call it. And I don't even have any notes for tonight because I'm just going to speak from my own experience, and Renata's going to join me on this one. Because,
You're freeballing tonight.
yeah, we're freeballing, free flapping, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm doing, and luckily we don't have the recorder on yet. Because Anne realised she said a big C-bomb in the middle of the podcast the other week. Whoopsies.
Oh, look, we've lost 20 people the moment you said there's no tarot on tonight.
Funny about that. Yeah, it's nice if everyone can support us for the educational stuff as well as the other tarot stuff.
You all say you want to learn more and then you disappear. It's like, I want to learn more, but I don't really.
Hi Mitchell, hi Andrea, Pauline, Maya, Terry, Justin again. Yeah, we are well. We actually had a little bit of a weekend away. We managed to escape just while we're waiting for a few more people to come on. We went to the wonderful Wallacea Development Centre, which normally runs great workshops and things, and hopefully we will be back there running some workshops again. It's just a matter of,
It's a matter of time.
Matter of COVID. And for the first time ever, yesterday I said, I am thankful that I did not go to America. We're meant to be there right now. And in some of the places where the rioting is happening. So
Bend you bastard. Sorry.
I am grateful that we didn't go, even though it was sad. So we went there to Wallacea and we did some UFO watching. Has anyone heard of the CE5 protocols? We did a bit of work with a passionate group. Of course, we kept to our numbers like we're supposed to. And there was a few interesting things that went down, actually. There was some that some people got very excited about that turned out to be a plane. Because we didn't think there would be much in the way of planes in the sky at the moment, but there was. And there was one stage, because you have to do this meditation, you're listening to these tones that are going on, and I just had this overwhelming thing to open my eyes and look to the sky. Open my eyes, look to the sky, saw a shooting star go straight across. That was so cool. That was really cool. So that was our weekend. And what else did we do on the weekend, Renata? We ate.
Lots.
Lots. There was no keto diet this weekend. I gorged myself on carbs. And it was fabulous.
Hello, Breezer. First time watching. Thank you for coming.
Yes, Andrea, I did see a light moving that was not consistent with a plane. And it was a very definite strong light that would sort of, they'd say that they phase in and out. Is that the word they use? So I did see something of interest. I would like to do some more of it, just for the fact that it was sitting out in the beautiful country, staring at the sky for an hour or so. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Until Matt ordered squid, and we had to go and pick it up, and then we were vomiting all the way. Hi from Tucson, Arizona. Oh my God, 2:30 a.m. I hope you're safe where you are, Joe.
Sending you and all
Breezer.
of your lovely, lovely people over there, all of your friends, just so many well wishes. America is in such turmoil right now. It's just such a shame that this is going on.
So, shall we kick off?
Yes, so let me press the golden button. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the ABC of Paranormal Strangeness with Anne Rekovich from Ozparatech and Renata Daniel from Newcastle Ghost Tours. So this is the first half of tonight's episode, and we are on the letter T, and we are going to be doing telekinesis and table tipping. So what are we starting off with, Anne?
I'm happy to start off with the table tipping if you'd like to.
Okay, let's crack on with table tipping.
All right. So, table tilting or table tipping first kicked off probably officially in the mid-1800s, around the time that spiritualism was kicking off. It haven't even been burning incense tonight and I'm already coughing. COVID, no, it's not. Then the Fox sisters were able to communicate with spirits through knockings and rappings on walls, floors, furniture, and then it became a thing where people would sit around a table as entertainment and communicate with the other side, and the medium would be leading the seance as it became known. And there was times where loved ones were overseas in foreign countries, and there were wars such as the Boer War, where families were unable to say goodbye to their loved ones. And this is where seance work became very popular and needed to a certain extent. Whereas here we would get a telegram, phone call to say that a loved one had passed, or can you get to the hospital quickly? Can you fly to England in times when we could fly to England? You could be in England in a day and a half. So they couldn't do that back then. So that's where they relied on the medium to connect with the loved ones, to bring them messages. And table tipping was one of these forms of messages. Now, I had turned my phone off. So, is that your other phone, Renata? Yeah. Oh my God. Renata has a thing for leaving her phones on. Anyway, as I said, I'm not speaking from notes tonight because this is what Renata and I do. We love the old Victorian style of seance communication, and I actually do have my little table here with me this evening. So I was completely distracted now by your phone going off.
Sorry.
Smack her on the wrist. All right. So I first saw this on the ghost hunting TV show in England called Most Haunted, where they were all sitting around there and the table was rocking and tilting. And I'm going, what the hell is that? Because I have a very inquisitive mind and I don't just accept whatever I hear as being, oh yes, that is a ghost. If somebody tells me that is a ghost, I believe it is. I need to know more. I ask questions. So with a small group of friends, we decided to actually start doing some table tipping, and I searched high and low and we got ourselves a table, and this is actually my very first table that I got that was the proper sort, which I'll show you in a second. But we started with just like a little plastic one. And we had varied result. Well, actually, we had nothing for 4 weeks. We tried every week for 4 weeks. We'd sit there for an hour or more and nothing. And it was only when one person went home early one night that it started to kick off and the table tilted. And it was only afterwards that we found out the negativity of that person that was involved, that had left early that night. And obviously the spirit world didn't want to communicate with us while that negativity was around the table. So we had some success with that. We actually got communication happening. We had words that were spelt out for us, which I'll talk to you through in a moment. And it was a little bit later on, went through a few groups. We started to teach it to people in the paranormal field, and then they started to replicate it. And it sort of had a bit of an uprising. I don't know if anyone had been doing table tipping in Australia around that time when we started it off, but we gave it a bit of a renaissance, a bit of a revival. And now Renata and I run something called the Seance Parlour, which you can find on Facebook. We used to do table tipping as part of our ghost hunts, but we were finding we were getting really personal messages come through, and it wasn't appropriate for the setting that we were in. So, if you want to have a go at table tipping, I did find a really good little book, which I had put out somewhere, and now I can't see it, but I'll find it in a second. They suggest that you have a table that is not plastic. So this is our little table. It's got a round top. Now this tape around the edge here is luminescent tape. Now I put that on there so that people can see where hands and things are on the table, and you can see where all the fingers are. So I also have it around the edge there.
Craig, tonight we are doing some training and some teaching.
This is our education night.
We don't have live tarot tonight, Craig. If you can come back next Thursday.
Come back Thursday night. So what you would do, and if we get those, just pop that comment off so people can see the table completely.
How do we pop it off?
Just tap on it again to go back to the comment. There we go. Yeah. So, Renata, would you like to demonstrate with me?
Yes.
So with these little tables, I like to place your hands right inside the edge of the table, because you don't want people doing this where their thumbs can go underneath, right? So I like to do that. Now, when we were in England, we got very excited when we had the opportunity to do table tipping. Then we got in trouble because we had our fingers like this. Now, we didn't train with anyone. We learnt this information ourselves. We experimented ourselves, and we learnt by things not happening for ages and trying something different. We keep trying until things would change. So I've been doing this now for about 8 years. So the fingers would go on. I like to always say to people, pretend you're about to start playing piano, or that you've got half an orange underneath your hand. Now, the reason why I say that is so that you don't try to move the table, and you can immediately see how my fingers, for me to move it, will bend. Alright, so you don't want that. That's why I like to have them like that. These other people are telling us to have our fingers flat, which then you can do things with it, and it's not so obvious. I actually have a picture of an example of the way they used to fake it in the Victorian seance era. Another thing is you need to trust the people that you're sitting with at the table. You don't want to sit with anyone who it's about ego and, oh, it always goes nuts when I'm on the table, because that's ego. And if it doesn't go nuts when they're on the table, they generally make it go nuts when they're on the table, because they need to be right. The table loves them. Spirit loves them. So if nothing happens, nothing happens. So what you would then do is that with this position, and normally we do it in a dimly lit room, the old-fashioned seance style, they would blacken out the room completely so you could not see what was happening. And we have done this in complete light, so you don't even need to go down to low light. You can do it full light, but we have better experience.
I shouldn't sit at the table.
So
Sorry.
the thing is, our team sees us sitting here. We have what we call our spirit team. They see us sitting here and they're thinking, oh, they're ready to table tip. Let's get it happening.
Sorry.
So, Renata, what would be an example of an opening sort of thing that we would do? Here we go. Watch out.
So it really depends on how you have studied this, and it's really important, as Anne said, to really have a bit of a think with who you want to sit with and what you want to achieve, and let that be known to the energies that you are working with. But an opening prayer, like anything that you do with the spirit world, allowing them to know that you have a start and a finish is really good. And also being respectful by asking permission and sort of saying, you know, we're ready, we're hoping that you guys are ready as well. So any sort of opening prayer that you think would be suitable for you, even if it's as simple as we call in our spirit team and our spirit guides to have our backs and provide safety and security around this working circle. We ask those in spirit that are here to teach us and to be our mentors to come through. You might be wanting to reach someone in the spirit world that has passed over, but first of all, always ask your guides in first and those that are there to protect. So if you work with angels, ask your angels to come through and be at the quarters, you know, north, south, east and west, or your team of angels or your guides, whoever that you work with. Ask them to come in first so that they are the gatekeepers, and then you would proceed to say, now we are ready, we are focused, we ask those in spirit to now come through that wish to communicate with us in this safe and secure area.
Now, some of you have said that you're having issues with the, what do you call it, the text that comes across. You guys are in control of that. So you can turn off, the one that Renata just put up is our end, but if you are getting text coming up saying what we are saying, then you need to turn that off yourselves. That is not us. Okay, so fingers on, and then you would say, if there are any spirits present that would like to come forward and communicate with us, could you please tip the table? Now, when we say tip, we mean something like this. This. So for the podcast that's recording, I'm just showing how the table can tip from side to side. Other movements that it might do is it might twist either one way or the other. And on very rare occasions, it will levitate.
Rare.
That was my foot.
Rare.
It's very rare. And on the occasions I have seen it levitate, there's been suspicious circumstances, but I won't go into that here. So, I don't think we're actually going to be table tipping tonight because it's all a little bit bright in here. But we'd ask them to come forward and move the table in some direction to let us know that they are here and that they are willing to communicate with us. Once we'd established some sort of movement, we'd ask them to move the table to indicate what their yes would be. So if we said, are we in Australia at the moment, then they might choose for this to be their yes. And are we in Hong Kong right now? It might go over that side for no. And that way we can get some yes, no answers happening. Once you get more adept at doing this sort of thing, you can actually ask them to count out the alphabet. So you might get them, so obviously this is me, and you might go, count out the alphabet and stop when you get to the letter of the alphabet. What is the first letter of your name? So it might go A, B, C, D, and it'll hold D. So you go, okay, can you confirm that was D, please? And then it will tip to that side to say yes, because you've established your yeses and nos. And then you can actually work out names and things like that. Now, if you get a bit of a prankster on there who's been down the pub and had a few beers, they like to go round and round and round and round and round the alphabet, or they just don't want you to know their name, so they'll just keep going round and round and round the alphabet. Don't get too serious. Laugh. Have fun. The laughter gives them energy. There is nothing evil or horrible about this. This is building energy, laughter. Put some music on, sing along to it if you want to get it all happening. But this is something we do in the seance parlor. So what else did I have to tell them? Is that tipping?
Yeah, it's tipping.
We have had a levitation once, and no, twice. We've had proper levitations, and it came up, excuse me, spirit, off the floor, went like that, and then came back down to the ground, and we squealed like little girls, very excited. It was just amazing. One other time it went up, because I've got a lounge at the back here, it lifted its leg up onto the lounge, and then this end proceeded to go up like that. So it levitated itself that way, which was interesting. We then, hang on, what have I got? I've got some photos here. Let me just jump to screen share. Stay with me. Entire screen, allow. And this is another type of table that we have used with some success. We used this in Perth, and it's actually a plastic barbecue table. Now, we've had that one slide up a mirror in our room. So I've got big glass mirrors here at the side, wardrobe mirrors, and it actually got itself up to the slide and it slid up the mirror. It was a lot of fun. This is our original seance, so you can see how the sides are lit up there, so you can see that where people's fingers are, and it gives you an idea of the lighting that we would normally use. This is a little bit of a video of the table rocking. As you can see, we've got a few people on there. I studiously watch people's fingers to see if there's anyone who is trying to do anything they shouldn't be. Just wondering if it's going to start moving on or not. I'm not sure where we stopped it for that. There it goes. So there is something called an idiomatic effect, which is where small movements of the muscles, I'll just get back over to here, hang on. So small movements of your muscles, even down to your heartbeat, create some sort of movement within your hand. And then everyone else at the table may have the same movement, like we twitch, we move, that we can't hold our hands exactly still. It can make the table move, and then once it starts to move in a direction, people start to think, oh, it's moving in that direction, let's all concentrate on that, and it will go over further. But then you're willing it to go in that direction, so you should try and keep your mind as blank as possible whilst you're doing this. We like to have one person who leads the seance, and the rest of the people act as batteries, giving energy to the medium or the leader of the seance. So yeah, this is our table tipping table. What else can we add?
It's really important to start slowly, because you don't know sometimes around the table who you have and whether any of them have psychic or telekinetic abilities. And there usually is someone there that can really sort of ramp up what goes on because of latent psychic abilities that they might have within themselves and they don't know that they do. So often things like this, or a Ouija board, or a pendulum, or dowsing rods can actually open up some abilities within people who start to focus in and learn how to use them. And they really do believe that spirit is there and and acting and allowing this movement to happen through them. And yes, partially it is working through you, but where do you stop and where does spirit start?
And I know that Renata always says to me when she's working at the table, she says that she feels that they put her hands into her hands and that they affect the movement of her hand. And we had video footage of the thermal camera, a FLIR thermal camera, on her hands when we were table tipping, and her hands were blue. For those who know about the FLIR, that means that they are cold, really, really cold. Normally we are in yellow, orange, red tones, but her hands were blue.
Elise, your question, does that movement affect pendulums? Absolutely.
Yes.
So the way to test that is to actually hang a pendulum on a stand where it's not touching, and sit back and try and make the pendulum move and make the movements, or actually hold it in your hand and get the pendulum to make the movements. You will find that holding it in your hand, it's so much more easier, because there is that slight movement in muscles. In saying that, though, what you are allegedly working with is your subconscious mind. So it isn't your conscious mind that's affecting the answers, it's the subconscious mind. So the theory is that the subconscious mind is trying to tell you the truth beyond working through the monkey mind that may be saying something else in your consciousness. Yeah. So it is actually a great way. Look, working with the pendulum is a really great way to boost your self-confidence when it comes to working with your psychic abilities. So I wouldn't really poo-poo that in the point of going, oh yeah, your muscles are making the movements and it's just all rubbish and it's not spirit at all, because in effect, you are channeling the answers. And yes, your muscles are making the pendulum move, but you're actually tapping into your subconscious mind.
And I like to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
It's their ego. And I have seen people use dowsing rods, holding it and going, there's a spirit here. Yes, there's one over there. And then they tilt their wrists in and the rods start to swing. So work with a spotter to make sure that you are nice and steady whilst you are doing your pendulum work. Or and on the table, I've called people. They don't realise they're doing. I've seen them do that, and they pull the table, and I'd say to them, just watch your fingers, because you're tending to pull. We don't need to pull. We don't need to do the work. We let our spirit team do the work. It's really weird for me to talk like this, because I'm, as I said, ask lots of questions. I'm the gadget girl, very much on the science side of things, but I have seen stuff with this I just can't explain.
The idea is not to weigh heavily onto the table either. It has to be the lightest of touch.
So if you put it on too heavy, immediately you can see the table bends. And we see people do this, and it's lazy. Their hands are like that. You've got to be up onto the tips of your fingers. And then we've also seen people try to imitate what we do and start up businesses, and they haven't made the spiritual connection that you need to make. It's not just about getting a couple of people around the table and making it tip and charging people money. We are exhausted after we do this work. Justin, yes, is the table likely to move at different speeds depending on spirit energy limit? It's more, I find that they... It's like you can recognise my voice because of the way it sounds, the highs and the lows, whereas Renata speaks, it's a different sound. You recognise her voice from her tones. We recognise different spirits when they come through by the movement of the table. There was one spirit that used to come through early on who would move the table very much like that, very sharp, and then we'd get other ones that would come through that would be very gentle. And then you'd get the excited ones that would be like, yeehaw, particularly if you put fast music on. We find in the seance parlour that they do like to dance to the music. I'm just whizzing down here to see if there's any more questions.
It's as important to close the circle off and ask those energies that have been working with you to move back and to disconnect. So always make sure that if you are using any sort of divination tool or a tool that allows you to connect with any spirit energy, that you actually have that moment where you say, I am now disconnecting. This is it. Please, everyone step back. We're done. And then that's it. Yeah.
You can use a glass on this table, but this actually has a bit of a wedge sort of, it's not flat in the middle there, so we don't tend to use this one for that sort of work unless we're at an absolute pinch. But that is another form of communication where the glass will move around the table and will spell out letters and things like that. But this table's not so good for that. Oh yes, Jody, you've witnessed it, the Irish jig. Yes, we did this at Q Station quite often as part of the tour that we ran there.
It is difficult to know whether you are speaking to the person that is coming through on the table. So often we will sort of ask a question to try and get a response that may give us the information that's required so that we know that we are speaking to the right person. So it's, yeah, can spirits pretend to be other spirits? Yes, they can be. We also do have a rule that if someone comes onto the table that we're not wanting, or they're not communicating properly or easily, or making things difficult or not making sense, we do ask them to step away and move on and let somebody else come through.
Lorraine, yes, I have had a table tip over onto me whilst we were still in the seance room and we had finished the session, and I was distracted and I was talking to someone else, and all of a sudden the table's gone. I've sort of gone, what the hell? So it has, but I didn't actually see it go. There's no one else around me at the time. So yeah. What's this one here? Do you think the powers of energy in thought comes into form with this too? The power of thought is very, very strong. Once again, you've got to try your experiments. If we are all thinking of what the answer might be, then it's quite possible we could project that into what is given to us on the table. And then once again, is it spirit giving us the answer, or is it our own psychokinetic energy and minds that are giving us, and telepathy that is giving us the answers?
Tammy, tonight is not tarot night, my darling. Come back on Thursday and we might be able to help you then.
Yeah.
But tonight is not tarot night.
This is our education night. What about the table and chairs at the Great Northern? Yeah. Oh, that's what happened there. That's right. They had we came back downstairs and the tables had moved. There was chairs upside down and things had moved, and that was really cool.
I think the Ouija board was upside down too,
yeah,
wasn't it?
The planchette, I think it was. How many hands do you need to communicate? We'd like to have 2 on the table just to show that there is 2 hands present at all times. But I think you probably need a minimum of 3 people on the table. Renata and I have done it with just the 2 of us, and it can be lethargic. Possibly we can't give them enough energy to get it to work. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But I would recommend, if you're starting off, maybe 4 people on a small table, and be patient.
And as Anne said, remember to always know who you're sitting with, especially when you're starting out to do these things, and any of these things. Same goes with the Ouija board. You all sort of have to be in a frame of mind where you're all wanting the same result rather than going for your own result. How do you know if they are good spirits? Sian, as we mentioned before, we have protocols that we follow, very, very strict protocols, and we really put an end to communication with particular spirits very quickly if we cannot get sense out of them. And again, we haven't been doing this since last week. We've been doing this for many, many years, and Anne's been doing it, the table tipping, for much longer than I have. So you get to know and sense what is happening within yourself, within the energies that are around you, and under your fingers, to know whether there is something untowards that's
and we
happening.
don't hang out with the lower elements. That's not who we call in. We do not have fear. It is normally fear and doubt that call in the lower vibrational beings, if that's what you want to call them, the negative stuff. We only work with those who can validate who they are with messages that can be validated by the loved ones that are present. So when you open up your door to your house, you welcome your guests in. You don't just welcome in anyone or anything that wants to come in. So you set your boundaries. Yeah, you can if you want to, but it would be, this is using the table by yourself.
It's again being very strict
it
with
would be
yourself.
hard.
Yeah, it's being strict with yourself. It's like reading the tarot card and trying to get a valid piece of information where your ego doesn't step in and say, I'm just going to tell myself what I want to hear.
So, Pauline, I like to have a wooden table, as I was saying before. This is the traditional style that they would have used, the three-legged wooden table. It can be round, it can be square. This one just happens to be oval-shaped, but make sure that the top is not wonky and that it is nice and secure, that all the legs are secure, because you don't want there being any imbalance anywhere within the table. Now I've got the hiccups. And it needs to be a comfortable height. You can get some tables that are quite low, and if they're down too low, that actually gives you back and neck pain. I can't help it. How do you know when enough is enough for the evening?
You're exhausted.
Yep, you're tired.
You're exhausted.
And
That's why.
you go, I can't sit here any longer. My back is killing me.
Yeah.
And sometimes the communication will dry up. It trickles to a stop, and then you sort of know that that's the end of that.
And again, one of the most important things is please do not imbibe in alcohol or take any drugs or any sort of mother juices or anything like that before doing any sort of communication with spirit. It just puts you into an inflamed state of vibration, and it will not work well. So if you have someone sitting at the table that's just had a few drinks and sits down and goes, oh, let's have a go at this now, Mabel. Let's go. Come on, we're full of piss. Let's give it a crack. Then you just go, where's the door? Thank you very much. I think it's time to go home.
Yeah, time to leave. I did have one other photo here to show you how they used to fake it in the old days. So I'm just going to go across to here. Allow. So what they used to do is they would have long sleeves and they would have these straps around their arms and what was essentially like a wire coat hanger that would come down, and they would hook those things underneath the table. Then their hands are on top. So all they need to do is lift their hands, and of course the hook would bring everything up with you. So and I've seen rulers also as another example of it being used. These card tables are very popular in England to use, and we also had little folding up tables when I was in Ireland. But yeah, we've had tables climb into people's laps and hug them. So it like got up to here and was sort of doing this to them, and they said, we feel like we're being hugged. And it turned out that a child had died, and that they used to climb up into their lap for a cuddle. They were a babysitter of that child, and this lady had a lot of relief from the fact that this was their farewell from the baby she used to care for. It wasn't her fault the child died. Just putting that out there. But yeah, we've had so many wonderful experiences doing this, and I strongly encourage you to give it a go yourselves. But it doesn't happen overnight, and you will go through very frustrating stages where nothing happens for ages. And that's okay, because they might be working on you in a way that you are not aware of. So you're sitting in meditation, you're sitting quietly, communing with the spirit world, and they will do what they need to do to give you the experience that you're hoping to have. If you stick to doing it with honesty in your heart and not ego. I can't emphasize that enough. It can't be about ego. Now, the book I had was by called Tilly, the person that wrote it, and it was Table Tipping. I will find it whilst Renata is doing her talk, because I did have it here. Brooke just returned it to me because she borrowed it. And yeah, so if there's any more questions...
Yeah, any final questions on that? If you have some fear with regard to it, or if there's somebody that sits with the circle that is in fear, the suggestion is don't do it. It can be something that is quite eye-opening for people, and they
Can be quite
may
confronting.
not be quite ready. And so
There it
it is sometimes best just not to do it. Yeah, so
There it is. Table Tipping for Beginners by Teresa Lally. I was close.
yeah, so with all of these things, we are dabbling in the afterlife. We are trying to connect with spirit energy, as we are doing when we go ghost hunting. So this is really no different. We are not trying to connect to anything else other than an energetic form that does not have a body. So no, you've got to be sensible about all of this and just use your gut instincts into how you should proceed, and always slowly is the best.
And do you use a closed room? I do. I have a room that is dedicated to seance work. It's also the Oz Paratech room, which is this room we're in now. So it does have blacked out windows, and I do have a curtain hang above the door. I haven't got to that yet, but I do that because that's sort of like the traditional seance conditions that you're... It's also meant to be a spotlessly clean room, which, yeah, I can only do so much. Right, Margie.
And also remember that part of a circle's learning to begin with is to blend energy and make sure once again that everyone kind of is on the same page and is at the same place with their spiritual journey. And so you may think that you can sort of just jump on a table straight away and get cracking with it. Sometimes that's just not the way to start as well, and that it is actually better off to do a few sessions where you are just sitting together in meditation and going through a guided meditation, opening up your psychic senses, working with your third eye, all of that sort of stuff before you begin. So there may be a bit of a process before you actually sit with the table. Again, it's like having deep conversations with a friend. You just don't roll into it without any preamble. The best way is to just sort of get to know other people, get to know the processes. You may even sort of just start and learn what energy feels like and vibration feels like before you start getting into things.
Leanne, can you wear crystals for protection? If that is your belief system, that crystals give you protection, then yes, you can. But then you're also saying that you think you need protection from something nasty out there, which means that your mental psychic protection is not where it should be. Speaking of which, we're doing a psychic protection course coming up, which Christy, I'm sure, will pop in the information and the links to that. So that's a psychic protection
9th of June
Yes.
and 16th of June.
Yep, Tuesday night, 7:30 to 8:30, $20 all up for both nights.
And remember, Leanne, there sometimes is too much protection, where we put in so much protection we get nothing at all because we've just put in a complete barrier. So just be aware of that as well.
Christopher, yeah, we used to go to cemeteries and investigate, but we during our paranormal investigation course that we just ran, there are certain rules and regulations in New South Wales, particularly where you cannot be on certain cemeteries after dark and before dawn. And also you have to remember that people's loved ones are at rest there. It's difficult for paranormal investigators because there's not many places for you to investigate. Cemeteries always draw people.
And you've got to also remember why you're going to a cemetery. What type of energy are you looking for? Now, just because it's a cemetery, remember the cemeteries are places where people have been put to rest, and the idea is that when spirit is put to rest, it will not rise again. You may not be getting the energy of those that have passed over there. Therefore, the spirits that are haunting the cemetery, you may be getting other type of spirits there.
All right, so let's finish off our table tipping because we're starting to run out of time. Thank you all for the questions on that. But the people on the podcast stay with us because we go to section 2. All right, now we're going to switch over now to... oh, what have I done with your video? I have to find Renata's video. So give me 2 seconds, guys, while I can get... I had it up there and I've lost it. Hopefully I'm still here. So we are now going to jump on to telekinesis. Just give me 2 seconds, guys.
In the meantime, just be aware that we have now announced that we are going to be doing an online paranormal convention.
Oh, yes.
And that is going to be held in July. It is completely online. We're going to be talking to people who run groups, investigations. Some people are going to actually be talking about particular subjects that they are passionate about. All Australian content, and all for a very, very, very small charge, donation, which we will be putting up later. And yes, you can join us that weekend and catch up on for your favorite group, or just watch the whole weekend. So it'll be a Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a Saturday and Sunday, with a number of guest speakers during both days.
We've got so many people who have put their hands up and said they'd love to speak, which is wonderful. We really appreciate it. So yes, let's get on to part 2.
Okay. Right, so part 2 for this evening is all about telepathy, and telepathy might be the thing.
Oh. People on the podcast hang with us. We just lost our feed.
Yes. We're here.
Alright, not sure what's happened there, guys. We just need to get the camera back up. Not quite sure why it dropped out. Alright, so Renata, we're on here. This camera's working. Just give us 2 seconds, guys. It's going to be one of those sorts of nights. And we're back. I'm not sure what happened there.
You just don't want me to talk, do you?
The bloody ghosts. All right, we're back.
I'm just going to start recording again. So we'll pretend that first bit never happened. And we're back with the second part of tonight, which is all about telepathy. Telekinesis. So telekinesis might put a bit of a spanner in the works with everything we've just told you about table tipping, because scientists do not believe in telekinesis and that it actually exists. There is nothing there to say that it is not just a whole manipulation. So hang with me, guys. This is what I actually have to read these notes just so that I make sure I don't.
They're now saying that the microphone has gone really loud as well. Give us a second. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unplug the Yeti and I'll plug it back in again. They're annoyed with us because we didn't table tip, Renata.
Oh, we'll just have to do a special night for table tipping, won't we?
La 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 la. Nope, can't hear you at all. Now it should be back. I know they're bad tonight. I'm hoping they're back on now. And we might try a third time for the starting of that. Back now, there we go, we're back. So we're going to start that podcast for a third time. Thank you for bearing with us. Is the sound okay though? Yep, they can hear. All right, off you go, Renata.
Welcome back to the second half of the Frightfully Good podcast.
For the third attempt.
The ghosties really want to talk to you.
They wanted us to table tip.
And yes, they just want us to table tip, unfortunately, and now I'm going to poo all over that by talking about telekinesis. And as I mentioned before we got sort of locked out and you couldn't hear anything, telekinesis is something that scientists really don't believe in at all. And
depends on which scientists.
Yeah.
It's a pseudoscience.
Absolutely. So, just to move through some of these notes, the word psychokinesis, which is the new word for telekinesis, was coined in 1914 by American author Henry Holt in his book On the Cosmic Relations. The term uses the Greek language words of psyche, meaning mind or soul or spirit or breath, and kinesis, meaning motion or movement. Now, the American parapsychologist J.B. Rhine coined the term extrasensory perception to describe receiving information paranormally from an external source. So following this, he used the term psychokinesis in 1934 to describe mentally influencing external objects or events without the use of physical energy. His initial example of psychokinesis was experiments that were conducted to determine whether a person could influence the outcome of falling dice. We've probably all heard of that one. Now, as I said
think we
before,
all did it at school. I know I certainly did that experiment at school where you'd have to throw the dice and find out what the average was.
A double six. Double six. Yep, so the whole idea was, can we influence the fall of the dice? The word telekinesis comes from the Greek tele, meaning distance, and kinesis, meaning motion, and was first used in 1890 by Russian psychical researcher Alexander N. Askov.
Glad you're getting the words today.
So in parapsychology, psychokinesis and telekinesis are different. Psychokinesis refers to the mental influence of physical systems and objects without the use of any physical energy, while telekinesis refers to the movement and or levitation of physical objects by purely mental force without any physical intervention. Either way, what we are trying to do is we are trying to influence things, objects at a distance, do things with objects that we normally shouldn't be doing using our mind. Now, scientists say there is not enough stuff going on here to make anything out there happen. It's just the connection is not there. But of course, all New Agey people and people who work in the paranormal and all of that kind of believe that there is. So
a lot of us have seen too much to not know that there's something going on out there. It's just we can't get it repeated in scientific labs, so therefore it's dismissed by science.
Exactly. So let's scramble your brains a little bit and let's look at some biases as to why these things can't be happening. Okay.
Check what that noise is because I'm home alone at the moment.
So we have cognitive bias, and cognitive bias research suggests that people who are susceptible to psychokinesis believe that they have psychokinesis. So these include both the illusion that they themselves have the power and that the events they witness are real demonstrations of psychokinesis, or PK. Let's call it PK. For example, the illusion of control is when you believe that you can influence something to happen and you disregard anything that happens to disprove that theory. Part of this is kind of like not affirmations, but the positivity type of stuff, you know, where you
I believe I can.
Yeah, all I believe is whatever happens is meant to happen. I've created that. I'm power of positivity. I'm only thinking positive thoughts, therefore only positive things will happen. I am influencing my external existence in some form because of my thought processes. Power of positive thinking sort of stuff. Yeah. In that, though, we have to be aware that we aren't biased in that all we see is the positive and not the negative things that are happening, because our mind is biased only to seeing the positive. So psychologist Thomas Gilovich explains that this is a biased interpretation of personal experiences. For example, someone in a dice game wishing for a high score can interpret high numbers as success and low numbers as not enough concentration. Yep, so it was something with me, or my spirit guides, weren't telling me the right thing, or whatever it is. We have ghosts. Yeah. Bias towards belief in PK may be an example of the human tendency to see patterns where none exist, called the clustering illusion, which believers are also more susceptible to. So once again, the belief in this needs to really be a structured belief where you continue to be skeptical of the results until you get enough information to prove otherwise. So there is a difficulty in being totally a believer, absolutely and totally, without a doubt, because this is where a little bit of doubt is healthy. So a study in 1952 tested for experimenters' biases with respect to psychokinesis, and Richard Kaufman of Yale University gave subjects the task of trying to experience 8 dice and allowed them to record their own scores. This is going into mental craziness here, Anne.
Yes, it is.
They were secretly filmed so that their records could be checked for errors. Believers in psychokinesis made errors that favoured its existence, while disbelievers made opposite errors. A similar pattern of errors was found in J.B. Rhine's dice experiments, which were considered the strongest evidence for PK at the time. In 1995, Wiseman and Morris showed subjects an unedited videotape of a magician's performance in which a fork bent and eventually broke. Believers in the paranormal were significantly more likely to misinterpret the tape as a demonstration of PK, and were more likely to misremember crucial details of the presentation. In other words, the more you believe, the more you see nothing other than what you are believing in. So this is confirmation bias. I only want to see what I believe in, and everything else does no longer exist. And it affects people's interpretation of PK demonstrations. So psychologist Robert Sternberg cites confirmation bias as an explanation of why belief in psychic phenomena persists despite the lack of evidence. Some of the worst examples of confirmation bias are in research in parapsychology. Arguably, there is a whole field here with no powerful confirming data at all, but people want to believe, and so they find ways of believing. And I know that's harsh, but it is so true. Yeah. So, does telekinesis or psychokinesis exist? Now, there are subsets of psychokinesis. They can be macro psychokinesis and micro psychokinesis. And in actual fact, most scientists are more interested in micro psychokinesis, so small scale psychokinesis, or PK. So, some of the phenomena are apports. So, Anne, do you know what an apport is?
I do.
Yeah, what's an apport?
It's something that appears without any idea of where it's come from. It's come from another dimension, maybe, or another time period, or a time slip, or it might be an alien artifact.
Levitation.
Am I being tested here?
Yeah.
Things that defy gravity and raise up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bend the spoon.
Materialization.
That something appears right before your eyes that wasn't there previously.
Psychic healing.
When you have an illness and through the power of the mind of a medium, they cure the illness or make the pain go away.
Beautiful. Pyrokinesis.
That is with fire, being able to set fire to things with your mind.
This happens a lot in India. Yeah, and in India, Indonesia, some of those types of countries get a lot of this pyrokinesis happening. Retrocausality.
Something to do with past and causing.
Yes. So the result happens before the initial thing is actually kind of thought. It works in a roundabout way. Telekinesis, yep, and thoughtography, which is really, really interesting. Thoughtography, that's when you can imprint an image from your mind onto.
Oh, that's like
film.
the psychic art and things like that they used to do
or,
on
yeah.
canvas.
Mhm.
And good segue there, Sherry.
I give up tonight. I really give up.
The Haunted magazine is out, and I got mine from Sarah.
Living
And
life in full spectrum.
And she put Jot there, and the reason why she put Jot is that one of the articles is by Sarah. Lost your dowsing rods. 1 minute they're there, the next minute they are gone. You have been jotted. So there we go.
There you are. So the idea of people being able to move objects through mind power alone has intrigued people for centuries. Though only in the late 1800s was it seen as an ability that might be scientifically demonstrated. This occurred during the heyday of the early religion of spiritualism, where psychic mediums claimed to contact the dead during seances, and objects would suddenly and mysteriously move, float or fly by themselves and across the darkened room, seemingly untouched by human hands. Many people convinced, especially Arthur Conan Doyle, who was also convinced with fairies in the back of the garden. And fraudulent psychics resorted to trickery, using everything from hidden wires to black-clad accomplices to make objects appear and move untouched. As the public slowly grew wise to the faked psychokinesis, the phenomena faded from view. It was revived again in the 1930s and 1940s when a researcher at Duke University called J.B. Ryan became interested in the idea that people could affect the outcome of random events using their minds. Ryan began with tests of dice rolls, asking subjects to influence the outcome through the power of their minds. And though his results were mixed and the effects were small, they were enough to convince him that there was something mysterious going on. And we heard on the weekend about a long-term experiment where people were trying to affect the amount of zeros and ones that were coming up
in a random generator.
Should
be 50-50.
And one of the things that was found was that when any major occurrence in the world was happening, there seemed to be a greater percentage of one over the other, as if we were all sinking in and having the same thought patterns occurring.
And it
very interesting.
happened in the 911 event that this random generator suddenly stopped being so random and started to favour one of the numbers more than the other. You do have a question there, Renata?
Given I love skulls, where did you get your awesome skulls? I bought this online. I used to sell them. I don't have them anymore. Jane, I am so sorry. I'll see if I can find some for you.
Also, Robin, it's not tarot night tonight. That's Thursday nights. This is our education night. We're talking about telepathy. Telekinesis. Blah, blah, blah.
Uri Geller. Have we all heard of Uri Geller? Some of you might be old enough to remember Uri Geller. He is still around and he's still doing amazing things. And he has been tested many times. And that's the thing about some psychics and mediums. You don't actually hear about the amount of testing that they do go through. So we sometimes make these decisions based on what we hear from social media or movies or documentaries that are made that are obviously biased in some way. But many of the well-known psychics are also scientifically tested in laboratories around the world, and those tests we never hear about. So Uri Geller was shown speaking at a press event in Moscow in 2009 and made millions in the 1970s by claiming he could bend spoons with his mind. Do you remember that? Google Uri Geller and check him out.
And we went to a spoon bending workshop and she bent the spoon.
I bent a spoon. Took me ages. Took me an hour. But I bent it.
I'm still trying. Oh, hi Ash. Canada.
So, though he denied using magic tricks, many skeptical researchers observed that all of Geller's amazing feats could be and have been duplicated by magicians. And that's the problem. Magicians take on some of these things and work out how to do them. And aren't some magicians amazing? They can do these tricks directly in front of your head.
But just because it can be replicated doesn't mean that it is fake.
No, it doesn't.
I keep saying this.
So, public interest in psychokinesis returned in the 1980s. One person nationally known for claimed psychokinetic ability, James Heydrich, tried to demonstrate his powers on the television show That's My Line in 1981. Following several successful television experiences, he claimed to move small objects such as a pencil or pages of a telephone book with his mind. So, to prevent trickery, James Randi, who we know really well, who's been trying to give away $1 million for years and won't ever do it because no one will ever come up to the standards he sets, placed styrofoam bits around an open book that Heydrich was supposed to be moving the pages of.
That's cool. I haven't heard of the Windbridge Institute. That's awesome. I'll look that up. Thank you, Joe.
Clearly it would be seen if the pages were disturbed, if these little bits of styrofoam would be being moved with Heydrich's breath. After many awkward minutes in front of the person that was doing the testing and James Randi and a panel of judges and the live studio audience, a flustered Heydrich finally said that his powers weren't cooperating. Heydrich later admitted that his psychokinetic powers had been faked and marvelled at how easy it had been to fool the public. So this is a huge problem, the fakery and the frauds, and I think it's a really good idea at this point in time to maybe go onto our little video. Now, this video is quite old. It's black and white, but it has some fascinating snippets that will show you people in our past that have alleged psychic telekinetic abilities.
And in the meantime, I will try to find the picture because I did take a photo of Renata's bent spoon. So 2 seconds. You might not get sound with the video though, so you might have to talk them through it. So start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
A very good place to start. Oh, now she was quite famous.
Yeah, so this was a Russian lady, and she was very, very famous at being able to move things from the point of view of... They used to put things in glass domes and things and try and get her to move things, and she could. People also have the ability, they say, to be able to affect lighting as they're driving down the street. You'll hear that under certain lights, they seem to be able to turn those lights off, and when they move, they turn back on. Some people also say that they can affect electrical items and things like watches. They can't wear watches because watches will stop. So you can see here a table levitating. I don't actually know whether they're actually hearing anything here or not.
What I'll do is I'll come back in because we should be able to see what's happening here. Yeah, so they should be able to...
So here's some levitation.
So we're looking at chips at a casino and...
there's Uri Geller, and here he is getting his spoon.
Oh my God!
So here we have the Russian lady.
Cat balls.
So the idea with all the testing is to also see what is happening with the mind as these amazing things are happening, and to see whether there is anything in the mind that is working when these people are going through these processes. So you can see here that she was holding a what looked like a small ball between her hands. Here we have a gentleman who is trying to move something and make something occur. Oh, it's a lady, yeah, under a glass.
Oh, I can see the captions on here. That's interesting. Oh, is this the Blavatsky? Is that her name?
No. But it is another Russian lady.
Oh, I can't remember her name. I've been... Yeah.
This particular lady would say that it absolutely exhausted her from doing these things. So it wasn't something that gave her energy, or it didn't extend her life. It shortened her life in the end.
They do say that people who work with physical energy, the toll on their bottom on their body is much more severe than the average person.
So we just might watch this little clip, and then we'll just stop it and go back to.
It's fascinating. Cool. There we are.
So you could see the amount of energy and the stress and strain in that lady's face, to how much she had to literally give off herself to make those items move. Now, they do kind of say that a few of the people who could fake these things could actually use static energy to make things move. So they would rub their hands together and hover them over matchsticks, and of course the static energy that you created in your fingers or on your clothing, could just be enough to make things move a little bit. So again, it's one of those things that is so much more easier to disbelieve than to believe, and that's why over the years it's been so hard, unless you have these laboratory conditions where you just cannot get in and touch anything, fake anything, bring anything in, where scientists would be able to record and look at what is going on within your brain
and shred whatever's going on.
Yeah, that anything with any sort of parapsychological things like telekinesis, psi.
There's no faith, faith or belief in science labs.
It's really, really, really hard to continue with that.
Now, this is a really good question from Elizabeth, and I don't know the answer. What are the common attributes of people who are able to affect the air and electricity?
That's hard,
We
because
don't know.
the thing is that it's internal. It's not like you're different. You have large ears or big eyes or something.
Certain blood type. They do say that physical mediums have a certain blood type. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, but I think
I don't know.
I think we're all grabbing at straws to try and fit into a box again that says I've got all of those attributes. And when you look online, it doesn't help when they say 10 signs of a psychic, or 10 signs of someone who can be a medium,
10 of them.
or 20 signs that you have some sort of abilities. It's all bullshit. It really is. You either have a strong sense that this is what you can do, but there is no specific thing. There is no country of origin. There is no particular background. There is no shape or form of a person, or age, or male, female, or religious belief that kind of says, yes, you will have these attributes, or no, you won't.
Basically, you've got to try. Give them a crack. See how you go. There are some videos on YouTube on how to move things with your mind. I have seen them. Why not try? It can't hurt to give it a go. Follow some of them. And no, you're not clueless. We don't know the answer either. We really don't know. I'm just wondering if she's going to be able to do it.
Now, literally, when we did our spoon bending, it was a 2-hour workshop. Most of us worked at it for 2 hours and still didn't get it. You can go to a spoon bending party, and the idea is that because everyone is so in this vibe of creating a spoon bend that in most cases people will bend a spoon. So it is something to do with, again, the type of vibration we're trying to raise, and whether we believe that we can affect an inanimate object. But the idea is to believe that there is no spoon, that you become the spoon, that you can feel the molecules and the particles in the part that is the smallest, and can manipulate it until it literally becomes like jelly. You can feel it becoming like jelly under your fingers, and then
you release your will.
The magic occurs.
Yes, Renata affects electrical things as well, really badly. Renata, it's 9:15.
Yes, we have to go.
Gone so far over time. We apologise profusely, but the table tipping is one of our favourite things. We went a bit over time on that. There's a big question that just came in now. It's just energy. Yeah, excellent. Think outside the box. Always, Margie. Really important. Oh, we've got another cat that just came in. The dogs will be in shortly. It's chaos in here. I can't bend spoons, just physically connect with those that have passed. That's okay. I can't bend spoons or connect with people who have passed. So, I do sometimes. But
it doesn't mean because you can do one thing, you can do them all.
Yep.
You may only be good at one thing. And hey, that's wonderful. Being good at one thing is perfect.
Also, yes, absolutely, you can connect with animals. Absolutely. We've had them come through on the table several times. So, yeah, and some people have... Oh, no, the dogs are in here chasing Oliver. Meow. We're probably about to lose all our cables and the laptop and the monitor and everything. We're going to finish up. But thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. It's going to go crazy here in a second. And please join us Thursday night for our free tarot. And also our... we would love it if you could support us by doing the psychic protection workshop that we've got. And also, if you'd like to become one of our Patreons, please, we would love that as well. We are so grateful to our Patreons who are allowing us to head off to Monte Cristo in 2 weeks. So we will be doing lots of live streams from the famously most haunted homestead in Australia. Or is it? And
also keep a watch on the Australian School of Ghost Hunting for more updates for our live virtual paranormal conference weekend coming up in July with some fabulous guest speakers.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. And we will see you on Thursday night. See you on the dark side.
Bye.
Bye.